Just watching the quarterbacks in yesterday's practice, it can only mean one thing.
Freezing temperatures are likely for several hours inland and a few hours closer to the coast.
Yes.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Charlie Tuesday to all who celebrate. That, of course, meaning we are joined by Auburn message board legend Charlie 5. Looking at we probably got about 30 to 35 minutes window of practice yesterday, which doesn't mean everything, right? I'm going to come out and admit that doesn't mean everything. But I just don't believe Auburn's starting quarterback is on this roster.
Ouch.
Charlie 5. I just don't see it.
That bad?
I don't think it was impressive. And look, I get it. It was, maybe all three of the guys, maybe Robby, TJ, Holden Geriner, maybe they were all having bad days, right? That's totally possible. But, I mean, these receivers were just having to make ridiculous, impressive catches. I feel good about our receiving core, actually, because some of the stuff they were able to haul in was actually pretty impressive.
It's great for them. Great work
Nick
for them.
Nick Mardner's catch radius, I'm a believer. That's awesome. That's great. And we'll talk about some of the winners from this drill in a second. But to me, it looks like we've done this before, right? We've done this conversation before, but it looked like TJ was the starter yesterday. And I'm not talking about him lining up with the ones. That did happen. When they did the pace drill, once again, we saw one pace drill. That doesn't mean anything. But from the way he carried himself and a body language situation, it looked like TJ was the starter and Robby was the backup. It just looked like that. It looked like TJ was the leader in the room. He had his shoulders, his chest out, his shoulders back, and Robby just kind of always was, slowly behind him. It just looked like that. And if you're a top quarterback, you don't ever look like that. You know what I mean? And so that's what it felt like, and that's what it looked like to me, Charlie 5.
I mean, I get it. I mean, and I can understand how these type of scrimmages or these type of practices really, really benefit TJ over most of the guys because he does the mechanical things right. He does he's fairly accurate in these type of situations. And it hinders Robby because he's more explosive the other way. He's more explosive with his legs. So the problem is since we didn't bring a quarterback in yet, we haven't had one on campus yet, I think we're trying to kind of maybe trying to convince ourselves that when we don't get to see practice like this, we want to convince ourselves that maybe one of these guys can be it. And then you hear reports, and it's not just from you. I didn't just hear it from you. Other people, wow, that the quarterback's really struggled. Holden's not even remotely in the conversation.
There were people that I really respect,
Charlie
5, that came up to me while I was watching them, and they asked me, how honest are you going to be tomorrow? And I'm like, I don't know. At the time, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
And it's not contact. That's the thing. If you can't look good when
against air
with nobody defending, how is it going to be when people are flying at you and there's defensive backs in the picture and there's defenders underneath and zone cut? What are you going to look like then? We have a very, very questionable at best quarterback room that desperately needs additions. And I mean, it may need multiple in the post spring.
I think they get two. Yeah, I think they get two. And you need other positions to clear out because you're kind of already pushing the scholarship limit. We'll see what that looks like. But once again, the upside of Robby is tremendous. It's just, I don't think we're seeing it yet. And maybe it's taking him time to learn the offense, learn these patterns. Maybe the verbiage is different. I don't know. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt here. I'm really trying to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I would give you that if it was a scrimmage scenario. if it was a scrimmage scenario and there's guys struggle, like maybe you don't pick up the offense, like you don't read things quite as fast because it's a new offense, or you throw a corner whenever the receiver's running a post, you can say, okay, that's just terminology thing. They weren't on the same page. When it's just simple pitch and catch and we can't pull it off, like that's just too much for us to pull off. That's beyond the offense. And it's a repetitive thing. It's happened multiple years now. That's no longer the offensive system. That's just what we have to deal with. Like that's
even if TJ wins the job, Hugh's going to go up to all these quarterbacks and saying like, "Hey, we're going to add one, maybe two other quarterbacks to compete with you in the fall." Like, is he going to like that? Like, he may leave anyway, even if he wins the job. So I legitimately don't know what that looks like.
I can't imagine being Hugh and trying to figure out how we're going to put something together with what we have at quarterback. It's like you corrected so many of the things that you needed to correct in the portal on offense. Yeah. And you had some terribly bad luck with quarterback, where you pretty much had a couple of guys like lined up ready to go, and then things just didn't quite pan out. Maybe there'll be somebody sitting there waiting that's polished and ready to go in the fall in the spring that had maybe cold feet in January of pulling the trigger. But I mean, that's what you got to hope for. You got to hope for that, because if we can't look good just throwing against air, running basic routes, we're going to have issues. The bright side, we already mentioned this. This is great practice for the receivers. This is better than a jugs machine. Like, it's unpredictable. Like, you just go out there and you're going to have to catch the ball away from your body because it's not coming into your chest. That's good. That's good practice. That's the bright side. Let's look for silver linings.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of silver linings. We'll touch on some of the positives in a second, but I think they can make the throws. This is about to sound stupid, but I think they can make the throws that they can make. And what I mean by that is, like, I think TJ is great at stuff that's inside the hashes, and I don't love his stuff that's beyond 20 yards. Robby, he had an incredible throw to Camden Brown late in like his touch on deep balls are great, but the stuff in front of him in the hashes isn't good. It's like the stuff that they do, I like it. I like what they do, but outside of that, like both of them on outside throws, like it's pick six city waiting to happen. And once again, they can fix that. All that's fixable, but just you're supposed to look really good against air. And like, I'm not convinced that happened. So
I'm wondering too, with Holden, if there's some type of injury or something, because
doesn't look right.
From the release doesn't look right, and then there's nothing on the ball. Like, he's really struggling to put anything. Like,
but even at A-Day, I mean, he was all touch. It was all touch.
Quick stuff. It was quick stuff too, like little 5 yard passes.
But you can win with that. If you build the offense right, you can win with that.
You can. Tom Brady's done it. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, if you know where it's the guy's open and you can get it out, but he's far behind. And I was not comparing Holden Geriner to Tom Brady at all.
I mean, you can compare him to whoever you want. I think that'd be great. I would love that.
We got to have some growth, man. We got to have some growth, or you just got to add new people, because that is the most suspect position, I think, by far on offense, maybe on the whole team.
Yes. Yeah. Or linebacker. Those are the two. I'm like, I don't know. So when we got out there, they were doing like special team stuff.
Yeah.
And the quarterbacks were just doing drills. And each of the three quarterbacks had a specific target that they were throwing to, and they were just matched up for the whole drill. This is weird to me. I'm sure there's a reason for it. See if you can help me find this. So TJ was throwing to 84. So that's Micah Riley Ducker.
Okay.
Robby was throwing to 13. Rivaldo Fairweather.
Okay.
So you're like, okay, tight ends. Cool. Holden is throwing to Jarquez Hunter. Like, what?
That's pretty. Maybe it's dudes
for like
coming out of the
15
backfield.
minutes. It was weird.
Yeah, that is weird. That is weird. I don't really have an explanation for that. Is it, I saw Micah Riley Ducker the first practice. He dropped a couple, but Rivaldo caught everything, and Jarquez catches everything. So I'm trying to find a pattern here, and I'm not even really sure that I see one. Other than
I watched that
nothing.
for 10 minutes, and I'm like, what is going on? But whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. And we'll talk about some of the winners in this media viewing window that I want to talk about with you, Charlie 5. But FanDuel, they've got Auburn as a 0.5-point dog currently against Iowa.
Interesting.
In Birmingham. We'll see if the line shifts any before the tip Thursday evening. But hey, now's the time to get in on the action because new customers on FanDuel, they get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Charlie 5. This bonus bet's back if your first bet doesn't win. Can you imagine betting $1,000? If you win, you get all that money. If you lose, you still get the money back to continue betting. Sounds like a win-win to me. Sounds like a win-win to me.
No risk. No risk.
No, what could go wrong? So be sure to go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, I think the winner of practice, or the guy that looked most impressive to me, was number 3, Tarvarish Dawson.
Nice.
Him operating solely out of the slot, but just the way he ran his routes were so crisp. I mean, you talk about that, like that French fry that's cooked to perfection, where it's a little bit of crispy, but you still got that awesome potato action in the middle. I think that was a great representation for Tarvarish Dawson's routes. Very crispy, very thorough, very thought out. And it just stood out to me watching his, the way he was kind of going through, like he wasn't going through the motions. He was going all out. And a lot of his stuff was in breaking routes. So like TJ hit him in stride. It just looked good.
Best fast food French fry, real quick. Ready, go.
McDonald's probably.
Oh, I'm going to go Chick-fil-A. I like the waffle fry.
Waffle fries are overrated across the board.
Not when they have the right amount of crispiness and salt on it. So there you go. All right. So Tarvarish Dawson, remember he was the legend of spring last year.
Sure.
He was the spring legend last year. He was the fall camp. I think maybe even fall camp legend. As
he got
a freshman,
hurt or something, didn't he? He missed time.
Maybe he did get hurt. I remember towards the end of the year, 2 years ago, they made him this deep ball guy. Like, the kid's got talent. And for whatever reason, the first 2 years he was here, we were unable to figure out how to get him the ball. Mm-hmm. And one thing that Freeze's offenses are able to do is get playmakers the ball. And Tarvarish Dawson clearly has talent. He's got speed, and he's not just speed, but he's quick as well. So I love crispy. I love his crispiness in the slot. That excites me.
I'm with you. The other winner, Camden Brown,
Beast.
A man that big and tall with a frame of that size should not be able to move that.
He looks
well.
like an edge. He looks like an edge. He really does. He looks like he kind of looks like Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, I mean, or like is that Cam Riley out there? That's kind of what it looks like. TJ threw he ran a comeback. He was paired with TJ. He ran a comeback. And it wasn't just like the, run 10 yards, stop and come back. Like he ran some like jukes with it and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know how you defend that. Like if you did that against a human, like they're not covering that with your big old body. Like they're not going to be able to get in position to do that. You're going to be able to box out everybody because you're so stinking big. So I love that. That got me fired up.
He is. He's huge. He even looks big without pads on. Like he's just, like I said, he looks like Dylan, like he looks like an edge, but he's playing wide receiver. A 6'3", 215-pound dude, like, should not be able to move like he moves. I mean, this is like Laquan Treadwell type possibility of a wide receiver. This is the kind of wide receiver that Hugh Freeze drools over. And he's showing out. You consistently hear his name popping up in practice notes and in coaches' names, things like that.
Right.
so excited for him.
I am too, man. I mean, I think he could have one of the best wide receiver seasons in Auburn history. Now, sadly, that's a lower bar than we all want it to be.
Sure.
But if you told me Camden Brown, if he gets 900 yards, I mean, that's one of the best receiving years that Auburn's ever had. And it's like, I kind of feel like that's going to happen regardless of who's at quarterback. I think he's going to be that good. And I think Hugh Freeze knows to get this offense going, he's going to need a guy like that, because I think just due to some limitations of the current of the roster, I'm not just talking about quarterback, I just think depth in general is a big issue. You're going to need guys that can make plays even when they're covered to catch the football. And Camden Brown and Nick Mardner are your best two options right now.
The only thing that worries me about that is who's the quarterback, because they're on the outside, and that's where they struggle, is getting the ball.
That's true.
On the outside. So is it just going to be, we're going to put him in situations where it's just a bunch of 50-50 stuff? Like, then obviously that makes his job a whole heck of a lot harder. But he's the kind of guy that could go win his fair share of those. So I think that they're going to see huge production. I'm just hoping that whoever it is that we either bring in or somebody, just the light comes on and they're able to, help him out and not just hang him out to dry over and over and over again to make an impossible play. Because we've seen great receivers like Seth Williams get really that's frustrating. That's got to be frustrating when you see other teams that are able to scheme people open so easy, and we just, we're not able to do it. So I'm hoping that offense, and then maybe either a transfer in or a quarterback gets a little light bulb comes on and they kind of figure it out, because this kid is ready to explode.
Yeah, and hopefully that helps the quarterbacks take a step forward, right? With the scheme. I mean, that's what everybody's saying. Like, Hugh Freeze is the quarterback whisperer. Look at what he did with Bo Wall. Like, I'm cool with all of that. I'm just saying, with what we've seen so far, the quarterbacks are behind schedule, and the coaching staff feels the same way. I'm not saying that they're going to not get better, like, understand, but I don't think they're at the point of where this coaching staff thought they would be entering spring.
I get it. Maybe they went hard on spring break. I mean, Auburn led the beach in Destin of arrests. I saw that. Like, Auburn students. Yeah, that's wild. I'm proud of that. Hang the banner. Spring break champs.
Yeah, they were something. They were something for sure. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. And I talked to several players that went back to their hometown and worked with their high school trainers to get better. And you hope the quarterback certainly did that. I don't know. Everything looks so fast, other than like the quarterback. Like, everything looked so much faster. The offensive line looked good. The running backs looked good. The receivers, I thought, looked really good. And so they can figure it out. I mean, they're going through more than any other position.
Still only about 5 practices in. I would say the quarterback, that timing and whatnot, probably has the most rust to shake off, because it's not so much physical as it is just mental and repetition. So
yeah, I don't want to get on here and just like slam the quarterbacks, because their job's harder than everybody else's, but it's just against air, it should look a little bit better. It should look a little.
I agree. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If it's just against air, you got to execute.
I'm looking at my notes. VAR was really impressive. Robby, great deep ball to Camden. I think I talked about that.
Yep.
And through the comeback route. Oh, then I've got a few notes about Mardner. Mardner making a few catches that were, I know we were joking about it earlier, but they were low, and he used those long arms to get down there. So
you can't.
He still looks like he's a starter. He still looks like he's a starter opposite Camden Brown, which, little surprise, but we keep seeing it. I think it's safe to say he's going to be out there early in games.
You can't imagine how big this kid is until you see him in person. Like, 6'6" sounds big, but like when you see it on the football field, like it, and how long his arms are, he's a big wide receiver, and he does not move slow. He's quick. He can run, and this kid's going to be a good player for us.
I'm with you. All right, Auburn's dancing in Birmingham. Charlie 5. Can the Tigers get that win against Iowa in the first round? We tell you in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Want to make sure everybody's aware that the Locked On Auburn Discord is free, and all you have to do is click the link in the episode description down below to check that out. Charlie 5, Auburn playing in Birmingham, that 8-9 matchup against the Iowa Hawkeyes. And I think Justin Ferguson said it best in his newsletter, the Auburn Observer newsletter, in a year filled with a bunch of adversity, and I think bad breaks. We're a little biased, but I think bad breaks with officiating and, talented freshmen being injured and things like that. Auburn finally got a break this year.
For sure. I think we maybe be able to put the conspiracy theories away that, everybody's out to get Auburn or out to get Bruce. I mean, you give a 9 seed essentially 2 home games. I mean, did you hear what Kelvin Sampson said, that Houston's head coach? They were asking about that. He did a press conference. They're asking about his regional, and he said, he goes, Auburn 9 seed gets to play 2 games in Birmingham. Maybe we should have been 9 seed. Joking around like. I mean that is tough luck. Like you're the number 2 overall seed, I believe, and you have to go play the night. I mean, if Iowa wins, it would be a wash.
Right.
But if Auburn were to win, you got to play a 9 seed essentially at home. So I'm ecstatic. I was kind of hoping for like a 10 seed maybe, because I liked our matchup better against a 2 than obviously several of the ones. But I had no dream that we would be in Birmingham as a 9 seed. If you get past Iowa, you get Houston essentially at home. It's crazy. Iowa's a terrible road team. Apparently, I cannot confirm this. That's just what I've heard people say.
I love that narrative. Let's push that.
So, I mean, look, this is essentially a road game for them. I mean, there's going to be a ton of Auburn people there. So, I can't imagine a better draw for Auburn. I really, really can't.
No, I can't either. And Auburn historically has done well in opening round games. We'll see if that happens this year. But, man, I'm just thinking about Birmingham. If Auburn does beat Iowa on a Saturday against Houston, like
it'll be. I think that place holds like 17 or 18,000 people. BJCC. It will be so dadgum loud and so Auburn. Yeah, Houston's. That's not too terrible of a trip for Houston. So I assume they'll probably travel. But I mean, it's not an hour and a half. You know what I mean? And then there's a vast majority of Auburn people that live in Birmingham that would want to go. People in Montgomery, people that live in Auburn, students, they can drive there. So like it's going to be.
Yeah, you can
crazy.
go without having to like get a hotel and stuff. You can literally just day trip that, right?
Yeah, you can
both
come right
times.
back.
So
yeah, I'm ecstatic. I'm ecstatic. I mean, the significance of just getting in the tournament. Here's another thing I learned. And I think Auburn people need to learn too. You got to watch basketball outside of just the SEC, because a lot of people, especially the ones that, I'm a fatalist Auburn fan. The sky's always falling and everybody's always better than us. And
is this the dude you totally just cooked on the corner message board?
I did cook a dude on, his name was Auburn Hooper. Okay, and he knows nothing about hoops. So
did he press charges for that? Because I mean, you destroyed him.
Let's move on. Okay, let's move on. Look, after about the 2 and 3, after about all the 2 seasons,
the thread title was "Hey AU Hooper," and then everybody's just like, "Dang."
Sign up for a membership at Auburn Live, and you can get on it too. But so. After about the 2 seeds, it's a bunch of average all over. Like everybody just has a chance to lose to everybody. It's a whole lot of average. And when you look at net rankings and the way our strength of schedule, we played 13 tournament teams this year, and we're right around 500. It's the most we've ever played in a year in a single season. I mean, Auburn was pretty much safe for an 11 seed, even if they would have lost to Tennessee. I know it felt good to beat them and secure yourself, but like Auburn, there is probably 15 to 20-ish teams in the tournament that, like, I'm about 15 teams in the tournament, like anybody could beat anybody. You know what I mean? So if you you put us in Birmingham, like, who knows what could happen? I mean, we've been hot recently, led the SEC in 3-point shooting percentage, I think, for the whole month of February and March. So, like, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. The boys are ready to go.
Yeah, especially if it's really going to feel like a home environment.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to play us. Like, if I was Iowa or Houston, I would be ticked.
So ticked. You got jobbed.
Livid.
I have no problem saying it. You got jobbed. Something's out there.
But I kind of feel like we've been ripped off all year. And I just kind of feel like we deserve it. So,
we deserve it big time. For sure.
Charlie 5, how can people hear you, love you, catch up with you, all that stuff?
Absolutely. Find me on Twitter at @the_Charlie_5. You can find me in the Locked On Auburn Discord every single day, or auburnlive.com, the corner message board. We just talked about it, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the Dad Bod Golf Pod.
Yeah, you can read all my written work at auburndaily.com, and we will see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.